Okay, so a quick introduction for those who don't know us.
Hi, so my name is, oh, right, were you going to start first?
No, go for it.
So my name is Jag Kumari and I'm a health and safety consultant, and I've been specializing in the construction industry for 18 years now. And in particular, my concern is to make sure that all construction companies of all sizes know what their responsibilities are for health and safety so that they can do what's legally required of them and make sure that people go home safe every night and have loving families who get to support them every day. So yeah, that's it.
Great. My name is Geeta. I'm a mental health consultant. My background is construction. I'm also a therapist, and I decided to come and provide my therapy service, or all the knowledge I know, to corporate clients, mainly construction and in health and safety industry. So yeah, that's how I started, and somewhere along the line working with health and safety managers, I then met Jag, and we had a very last minute brainwave to do these sessions every day in construction week. So we basically had less than a week to prepare for everything. So hopefully you'll find it valuable. It's stuff that I already teach on a regular basis. It's stuff that she teaches and provides. So we know our stuff. We just had to slap it all together very quickly, which is why we didn't have time to advertise it properly. Over to you, Jag.
Awesome. So this week so far, we've already, so we've already looked at mental health and welfare and well-being and the causes of stress on Monday. Tuesday, we looked at plant and pedestrian safety and behavior signs of like poor mental health. And today we're looking at occupational health in construction and the simple things that you can implement regarding mental health as well.
Great.
So next.
Okay, there we go. Oh, did I open the wrong thing? Sorry guys, I definitely opened the wrong thing. Or I'm on the wrong slide anyway. This is where we are meant to be. Share. That's better. Hang on, swap. There we go. Can you see that now?
Yep, so what is occupational health?
Okay, there we go.
Earlier we looked at mental health and we looked at safety. Occupational ill health describes all the kind of health problems that you would get from your actual work environment, your actual, like, what are you doing at work every day that could cause you to get an illness through your occupation. So pretty much what it says. So the health problems can come from your day-to-day work, or it can come from something specifically that you're doing at work. And if you're not known about the hazards, if you're unaware of the hazards, this can build up over years and years and years. And often you don't actually know about occupational ill health issues until much later in life. And sometimes that includes things like cancer, and that can really obviously have a detrimental impact, not only on your lifespan, but on your family as well.
Yeah. Am I moving on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in construction, it's really important to know what are these hazards, right? And what do they include? And to be honest, no matter what industry you're from, even if you're not from construction, just look at where you work. Is there something that you can resonate with as well? So firstly, we've got frequent loud noise, so the exposure to loud noise can may contribute to noise-induced hearing loss. So it can be temporary or it can be permanent, but there's something called tinnitus, which is extremely harmful. It's a continuous ringing in your ear. And a lot of construction workers have actually committed suicide because of tinnitus, because they can't deal with the noise, because the noise is ongoing. Even when you go to sleep, it just doesn't shut off. So
interestingly, on that note, just interrupting quickly, so I'm obviously a psychotherapist, I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm all sorts, but I help people often with tinnitus with hypnotherapy, because it doesn't work for everyone, specifically with regards to tinnitus, but it can actually help improve it or get your mind to not register it as much, which makes it so much easier to deal with.
That's the main problem with it, because you can't take your focus off it.
Yeah.
And it's just this, whereas like you said, through hypnotherapy, I have heard of people make it like a background noise, and it's not so bother you anymore. Adam just made a note there that he has minor tinnitus, and so maybe Geeta can give you some more information about that, because but honestly, it's a serious condition. People don't really understand the extent of it. So next
up, there we go.
So exposure to harmful materials. So this includes asbestos, lead, dust, including silica. So silica is like in concrete, chemicals, sunlight. So chemicals could be any chemicals that we're using for cleaning, if they're really strong chemicals. Sunlight, obviously, if you're working outside for long periods of time. Gases, exhaust emissions, like you may be working as part of the traffic management. You may be outside where deliveries are happening all day long. You know, you would be exposed to a lot of exhaust emissions. So all of these can lead to skin problems, right? So they can lead to dermatitis, really, really bad skin conditions, right? You know, occupational asthma, occupational cancer, and lung disease. So if you're not properly controlled, you know, and these are all of these kind of illnesses, like I said, you don't get to realize you have them straight away, except for something like dermatitis would probably be more imminent. You would be, because it's on the skin. But a lot of the other illnesses would probably happen over time, and it may be too late. So it's really important.
Sorry, Jack, just going back to what we did yesterday, stress actually can cause a lot of these illnesses as well. So it's not necessarily just working in construction, but also having too much stress over a long period of time that wasn't dealt with can cause asthma, dermatitis, cancer, PTSD. There's all sorts of things, and it's all very much interlinked with obviously working in construction, the stuff that happens there, and the stress you deal with. Sorry, just had to put that in there.
It just got me off a little bit now. What's next? Okay, vibrating. No. So next we've got excessive use of vibrating tools. So again, you know, that's something in construction, maybe drilling, you know, often, you know, if you're a dry liner, you're going to be drilling all day. If you're doing groundwork, you're going to be certain kind of like hammer drilling. You're going to be drilling into the ground, whether it's in the wall, whether it's just doing joinery. All of those have a vibration impact. And again, if that's not controlled, that can be very hazardous, and it can cause something called hand vibration syndrome and vibration white finger, which like typically literally on the finger you've got. So they also say you tend to get the white finger when you're smoking. So again, in construction, you've got a lot of smokers as well. So if you're a smoker and you're doing that, like, you know, there's an additional risk there that often we don't take into account for. Yeah. Next. So next we've got potential for falls from height, electric shocks, being struck by a moving vehicle, and working in confined space. Now, with that, I'm trying to think. So yeah, this is all like, so this is the largest where we get the largest illnesses, if we looked at the pie chart, which we haven't got here today, but it's the largest one. And what it leads to is musculoskeletal disorders, right? So with that could be anything. That could be a broken bone, that could be fractures, and that can even be death. So this is like the largest hazard that we have and causes the highest illnesses.
Sure.
Then we've got frequent material and manual handling of heavy loads. This also contributes to the same thing. So this also gives rise to musculoskeletal disorders and upper limb disorders as well. So that adds on to that. And particularly if you're not using correct manual handling procedures, or if you're not, you know, so in that sort of situation, if you're not using something like a forklift, if you're doing it manually, there's more chance of you actually having more of those incidents as well. Then we've got stress and fatigue. So again, this
my
is
topic.
With stress and fatigue, this is the second highest illness contribution, actually, where it comes to occupational illnesses. And with stress and fatigue, this can contribute to a range of, you know, obviously, like we've been speaking about it for the last couple of range of mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety. Obviously that includes stress, that includes what else do you want to add to that one, actually, for the stress one?
I mean, there's so much we can add, which is a whole topic in its own, but I guess we've covered some of it in the previous sessions, and there's more coming. We'll be talking a lot about stress on Friday. And
then we've got inadequate working conditions. So this is your environment, right? Is the temperature okay? Do you get fresh air in the space that you're working? Those kind of things. Just what is your working conditions? Are they suitable for you? Because they can all lead to, again, they can lead to occupational asthma, they can lead to cancers, they can lead to depression, they can lead to anxiety, they can lead to a lot of occupational illnesses as well. And then, have we got one more? Yep.
Last one, yeah.
So with lone working, this is quite obvious. If risk assessment is not in place and there isn't some form of communication in place, there's more chance of accidents happening and no one there to attend to it when they need to, which can lead to a number of issues, particularly death if you didn't get there in time. So lone working is another one that often, if the right controls aren't put in place, can be very, very serious.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
Then we can go next
slide, which is, I guess, you're going into detail.
So these are, before I actually, I'm going to ask you to do something there. Just do me a favor.
Okay, what do you need?
Right, okay, let me just move that slightly. Okay, so it's just how it's on my screen. Okay, so common occupational health include, and we're just doing some of the common ones. There's so many.
Yeah.
These are the ones that cost the most lives, basically. Right, so the first one we've got here, musculoskeletal disorders.
Oh, sorry, I just saw it cut off a little bit.
So MSDs. Then we have hand-arm vibration syndrome.
Which is probably from all the vibrating tools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carpal tunnel syndrome, which also happens due to vibration. Spending too much time on the tools. Stress-related ill health. A number of reasons why that would happen, which we discussed.
We've covered some of that already, yeah.
Occupational dermatitis, again, that looks at your environment. Predominantly your environment. Noise-induced hearing loss, again, are you in an environment where there's too much noise and you're not taking a break from it? Occupational asthma, this is very common now. This is very, very common, yeah. And then we've got asbestos and silicosis, which is the silent killer, because this is the one which you don't know until about 30 years later, and it's really sad when you do find out because it's too late by the time you find out. So that one is the one that I would call the silent killer, because you just don't know that you have it, and it's just not something they pick up quickly. So
and I think also from what you've said before, Jag, it looks like musculoskeletal and stress-related.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through that.
Chunks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't got a slide for this because I only found this last night, because I knew there was a new report that was done by Loughborough University for the Institute of Civil Engineers, and they found that the cost of occupational ill health in construction was extortionate, right? And they kind of like really went into it. But I'm just going to go into some of the stats here. Basically, it costs employer 848 million per annum.
Sure.
Just occupational ill health in construction. And the largest contributor is MSDs with 646 million. And then the second largest is stress, which is 178 million. And then we've got smaller bits. Then we've got occupational asthma. Then afterwards, we've got hand-arm vibration is 15.9 million. Then we have asbestos is 4.6 million. We've got silicosis is 0.9 million, and occupational asthma is 0.4 million, which is crazy. And occupational dermatitis is 0.3 million. Sure. You know, like that's a huge cost to the company as well. So this doesn't include, by the way, this doesn't include the cancer, the cost for the cancers that might come up. This doesn't include the cost for any fines that they may get. This doesn't include the compensation that they might have to give, a business may have to give their operative, you know, if they get one of these occupational illnesses. This does not include the legal costs or the loss of reputation and the loss of future work, you know, like all of that. You know, it has a really huge, so there's a huge implication for like what employers are having to pay out just because they're not aware of what the actual hazards are. So obviously, if you knew what the hazards were, you can start monitoring it. You can start putting the right controls in place, right? So that's what we're going to go on to the next slide.
Before I do that, Jag, I want to chip in. One thing I have noticed is that, especially in construction, people do have occupational health nurses that come in. They do all sorts of tests now. They do the hearing tests. They do their lung tests. They do quite a lot. Yes. But they haven't really started focusing on stress and how stress and mental health can cause some of these physical illnesses as well, which is the frustrating part for me as a therapist wanting to do that. And what I've been hoping to get through to especially health and safety managers is, if you can have an occupational health nurse on site doing these tests and checking up on people, why can't you have a therapist on site where people can pop in for 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever, and just come and talk to someone. Because construction workers work really long hours. They get home really late at night. They don't really have time to go and see a therapist. And if they do go and see one during the day, they don't get paid for the hours they booked off. Yeah. So I personally feel like they should have a therapist on site as well, just for them to talk to and just have a bit of a let up, because they're not going to necessarily speak to the first aiders, the mental health first aiders that's on site, sadly. So, but yeah, stress is such a huge thing, and why not delve into that more?
And I guess it's considered a hazard, right? Like if you don't actually be familiar with what causes them in the first place, you can't put anything in place. And I think this is the biggest concern, that they're not aware. Companies, the concern is that companies are still not aware that it's such a contributor.
Which is why we're educating, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as part of, if you go into the next slide.
Yeah. Why isn't it going? Bear with me. There we go.
So what can you do, right? So, make safety a top priority. The main problem that we have at the moment is that companies aren't even aware what's going on. They're more concerned about not trying to offend anybody, but like ultimately it's the, how much profit are we making? Are we going to make any money? Are we going to be able to finish this on time? There are all these other concerns, but we're not making safety the top concern. The larger construction companies, yeah, okay, hats off to them. They've really gone out of their way. Like the much larger commercial construction companies, they will be saying safety first. But the smaller, small-sized companies, they're still really struggling, right? They're just still trying to make money, and they don't get the stress that is causing. So the first thing you can do is make safety actually a top priority, right? If you can make it a top priority, also from a legal stand, right, you have a duty as an employer, right? And if you're an employee here, you can tell your employer that they have a duty to protect their employees. So they need to implement everything that they can. They need to ensure that everyone receives the correct health and safety training, and they need to have appropriate procedures in place to reduce the hazards and any chance of risk. So this should always come before cost and profit, right?
And I also think make mental health top priority. That sort of needs to be, mental health and safety needs to come together, really.
But you're going to do that bit, aren't you?
Yes.
That's the only reason why I haven't added that, because I know you're going to. So you will be doing that. So just make sure, it's going to result in a lot less lost days of work. People are going to be happier. They're going to be more fulfilled. They're going to be glad to be at work if they know that you're actually making, health and safety and mental health all of a priority at the end of the day. They know that you care about them. But also it is a legal obligation. Like it is a responsibility for you as a business to make sure you take care of your employees. Secondly, encourage, we've gone to a different, okay, what have we got?
What's happened?
So it's not going in my order.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we've got conduct regular site and equipment inspection. So again, with this, you should inspect your sites before you start in the morning, and then at the end of the day, you want to be addressing any safety concerns that come up. So if anyone's sharing with you this happened or this is going on, deal with them. Don't ignore them. Deal with them. Make sure you put something in place for the following day so that they can be, so that employees feel safe to be at work. Because at the end of the day, if you've got hazard lying around, if you've got tools lying around and someone trips over them, there's going to be an impact. The impact isn't just going to be an accident. The impact is going to be, there's going to be an accident. This person might break their leg. They might not be able to come to work for a few days. They're going to lose that financially. This is going to then have a mental health impact. It's just a ripple effect, right? Just leaving a tool on the floor can have such a huge impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
It's just not a trailing lead.
Yeah, just so you know, we've got 8 minutes left.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep, and I still have 2 slides to go through. Not that I want to rush you, because it's all very important, but just so you're aware.
Okay, so I will try and get through this as quickly as I can. I'm not really hot today as well for some reason. So encourage regular breaks, right? So that's quite encourage the regular breaks and make sure they take them. Make sure they take a full break, that they're not coming back after 5 minutes when they had 15 minutes. Let them actually recharge themselves so that they're, when they come back to come back to work, they've had a decent break. They were able to just like offload anything. They were able to eat something properly. They were able to just even have a few minutes just to be silent and just have some mindfulness going on, you know. They just need some time to actually take their break. Then we go create a peer support. So something like a buddy system. They could be little groups that take place every week. I know that's like these Wednesday talks and things, you know, a lot of sites are starting to implement a space to talk about things, but, you know, they could have a buddy. We could say, okay, well, you guys are buddy and you guys can like talk to each other about whether it's something to do with work or personal, and they can support each other. And that can happen if we, again, give them more mental health training around what are the signs that they need to look for. And we discussed some of that on Monday and Tuesday. So if you want to go back to any of those sessions on Monday and Tuesday, we look at what are the signs, you know. And so if you knew what they were, you'd really be able to make a difference to somebody, you know.
Yep.
So you can get that from Monday and Tuesdays webinars. So enforce the use of personal protective equipment. Most large sites, again, are very good at this. You know, they've got the 5-point PPE, they've got it all going on. But like for things like hearing loss and like, you know, eyesight and, you know, those dermatitis, you know, please wear the physical PPE that is given to you, because it really does make a difference. And if your employer is not supplying this to you, please tell them that they have a legal obligation to do so. They should be supplying it to you. You shouldn't have to buy it yourself. And, you know, let them know that you do know what the legal rights are. And you should have a health and safety at work poster at work as well, which highlights what you're responsible.
I'm just wondering, does that include different countries as well, or is it just a legal obligation in the UK?
Yeah, well, health and safety is like everywhere, like the Health and Safety at Work Act.
No, but I mean, does every company in every country have to supply PPE? Is that
and according to health and safety at work, if they've got health and safety at work in that country, they would have to. Like,
okay,
if they're a self-employed person, maybe they may have to supply it themselves.
yeah.
But if the company is insisting on a certain level of PPE, then they can definitely contribute to that.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
to pay high amounts of money for certain PPE. Sometimes that's just a requirement, and they can contribute to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Display resources, so posters, right? That's something Gita really does really well. She's got some amazing posters as well, actually. But posters are a really great way for employers to show their employees that, you know what, we really care. Like, we really want you to know if you've got any of these, we want you to have the awareness. We want you to know if you're worried about these things, there's normally a number, there's an email, there's someone for them to contact. You know, it gives them employees peace of mind that, you know, you are doing something about their health and safety and mental health.
Yeah.
Complete risk assessment. Again, like, we're doing risk assessments. That's also a legal requirement to make sure we do a risk assessment. But predominantly, we're doing it from a space of the environment, which works. However, like what we've been discussing in Monday and Tuesday sessions is like, you know, it's really becoming apparent that people don't do risk assessments, which include human behavior, which includes, you know, stress, like personal problems. All of those things are not taken into account, and they do have, you know, they do cause a risk, right? They are something that should be assessed, and there should be controls in place, which include mental health toolbox talks. Like, we don't actually have mental health toolbox talks, for example.
I've actually created some.
I know you have. And so that should be, you know, that's something you can ask for, right? You can, you know, either create them, or you can, you know, find out about what Gita's up to in regards to those toolbox talks. But really, it's becoming present to, that is part of doing the risk assessment. You know, that really is part of doing the risk assessment. And then create an open culture. This is just basically being able to, again, you can do this through the posters, you can do this through the daily briefings, where you're just letting everyone know, like, if you need someone to talk to, you know, you can talk to us, you know, just really making it open, people being able to share more openly, like, okay, well, these problems are going on right now, and if you have this problem, please let us know. Or just sharing resources, basically. There's a lot of out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. We've got 5 minutes left. We might not have time. That's okay. We might not have time for questions, but I'm going to try and whisk through my slide. I might have to cut a few things out. But firstly, with regards to mental health specifically, managers should be trained, you know, whether that's doing the mental health first aid course, which gives them basic information, whether that's doing one of my programs that I provide, but managers need training to understand the signs, to be able to read their colleagues, On Monday, we covered a whole slide about this, of what you can see, and or was it Monday or yesterday? I can't remember now. But how to read your colleagues, how to understand your team and know when something is wrong for them. Next up is to create a culture of well-being. There's so much you can do around it, you know. Mental health, well-being shouldn't just be, oh, there's a national day like World Mental Health Day and we need to get something in the diary. It shouldn't be about that. It should be something that is there all the time. It is this culture in the office that creates that mental well-being. I've introduced things like, gosh, now I'm trying to remember. A 10 at 10 would be 10 minutes on a day of your choosing, a Monday or a Tuesday, 10 minutes at 10 o'clock, where everyone discusses a little bit about mental health and well-being. There are topics that I can provide. All you need, you get the email with the information, someone reads it out, and people have a discussion about that. You can do a well-being Wednesday, which means on a Wednesday, maybe you have a lunch and learn, or maybe there's something regarding well-being that you do every single Wednesday, and people know Wednesdays is the day for well-being. There's so much other things, and I'll cover some of it as I continue with the slide. But yes, creating that absolute well-being culture that's not just on a special occasion and ticking off a box. Next up is talk to your individual that is struggling with mental health, and just understand how is their mental health affecting them. I'll give you an example. There's a lady who started coming to work later and later and later. She was disheveled, really not looking after herself anymore. She was crying all the time. She's unfocused and making mistakes, and everyone knew something was wrong, but no one actually sat down and talked to her. And at the end of it, she was booked off for a whole month with stress, and they eventually found out her father had passed away. She had to look after her mother because the father was basically the main provider for the mother, and the mother lives in a different house further away from her. Every morning she would, well, every evening after work, she would go straight to the mother, go and cook for her, make sure she's okay and everything's she's happy and whatever else. Then she'll go to her house, cook for her husband and her kids. The next morning she'll sort out her kids, go to the mother, make sure she's got breakfast, everything sorted, and then rush to get into the office on time. Now, if someone bothered to ask her, are you okay? Do you need help? What's been going on? And they had this mental wealth culture, maybe she was able to open up to her manager and say, look, all I really need is just for the time being, till I sorted out my mom and put her in a home or something, can I have some time off? I just need to come in a little bit later and leave a little bit earlier to allow me this. If someone sat down and spoke to her about this, she wouldn't have likely been booked off for another month from stress, you know. It's about managing it. And someone who's going through mental health would probably already know how to, what they would need from the company to help them and give them support. So you don't need to understand what is happening for them, just understand what they need help with. Next up is encourage movement. There's a well-documented set of information that mental health and physical health go hand in hand, basically. And if you can encourage movement, you can actually ease stress and depression. So I'm wearing a Fitbit. I don't know if you guys can see it. This is what I got from a construction company about 5 years ago when I worked for them. I still wear mine. Yes, I know, Jack, we should hook up. But anyway, you know, there's lots of competitions, and we had loads of competition amongst each other at work, trying to see who can walk the furthest that day or do the most steps. I've introduced 1 at 1, which means at 1 o'clock, everyone in the company drops down and do a 1-minute plank, or they do a 1-minute wall sit, or they do 1-minute squats or push-ups or whatever it is. At 1 o'clock, everyone knows we're doing a 1-minute workout. You can do it 2 at 2, you can do a 5 at 5, whatever that may be. I know on one of the night shift that I worked on, they did a 10 at 10, and again, 10 o'clock in the evening, they all stopped and did a 10-minute workout. So encourage that movement, it's so important. Next up is manage workplace risks. Now, this is something I covered in a session yesterday. There's so many workplace risks that can actually contribute to a person's poor mental health. That could be something like they're not being rewarded or feel they're being recognized. It could be they've got lack of communication, lack of support, lack of control of what they're able to do in their work. There's such a huge list. And if you are able to manage all of that, you can make sure that your job isn't actually contributing to their mental health problems, but you've got to manage those workplace risks. Following us, look out for the changes in your colleagues. We covered that yesterday. You know, you can see different things. All of a sudden they're absent, or they're really angry and moody or frustrated. They are forgetting things, they're taking risks. There's a huge set of different things. So look out for these changes, because sometimes your colleague who's going through the trouble don't notice what's happening for them immediately. The guys around him will notice it often a lot quicker than he. So unfortunately, we sort of got cut off right in the middle of me speaking. So I'm just going to finish the slide. Unfortunately, we've lost most of those, or everyone who's dialed in. But for the sake of the recording, I'm just going to finish this. So where was I last? We were talking about looking out for the changes. Providing a chill out zone was the second last one. And mainly the chill out zone. I mean, if you think about, lots of companies now have a prayer room because there are different religions that needs to pray at certain times of the day. But why can't you have a little bit of a chill out room? It can be a breakout room. It just can be a quiet room. Just if someone is struggling mentally, they are able to remove themselves and go and sit in this quiet space and maybe just ground themselves, or do some breathing exercises, or just close their eyes for 5 minutes and just, you know, find themselves again. So chill out room, if possible, would be a really handy thing to have on site. And then lastly was destigmatize mental health. It needs to come from the top, really. Managers need to be recognizing that mental health really is a problem, and they need to prioritize it and send that down from the top down to the bottom, destigmatize mental health and actually talk about it. My last slide that I just wanted to cover was the managing of workplace risks. Now, there's these 6 sets, key areas that you can look at when you are trying to manage workplace risks. And one is the demand, you know, workload, work patterns, work environment. If someone is doing work and it's monotonous or it's chaotic, either way, that can actually cause them to have poor mental health. If they don't know what's happening, they're not being communicated to. So it's really, really important to at least manage that and see what you can do to decrease that risk for them. Next up is control, you know, an employee's say in how they do their job. It might be difficult in their say of when they want to do it or how long they want to do it for, but give them some control so that they know what they're doing and they feel they're not being micromanaged, basically. Give them support, you know, encouragement, resource and provisions. Give them rewards and recognitions. Be there for them, communicate with them, build relationships. Promoting positive working and avoiding conflict, you know, bullying and harassment and unfair treatment and all of that. The role is very important, helping employees understand their role and responsibilities. There's so many people that, well, they sort of know what they're doing and they're just carrying on, but they actually don't really know, is this required from them? How important is this? What is the priority? Is this needed yesterday? Is this needed in a month's time? Discuss the role so that they know, they have clear ideas of what they are expected of in their role. And lastly, change, management and communication of change. Especially now with the pandemic, how many changes haven't we all had in our lives? At work, you know, 2-meter distancing, wearing masks, washing hands. You've got to manage that as a manager, you know, so that everyone knows what is happening and they're not just left wondering, am I doing the right thing? Was it 1.5 meters? Was it 2 meters? Am I wearing my mask? Am I not wearing my mask, etc.? So that's it from me, really. That is the end of our slide. There's our contact details if you wanted to get in touch with us. And at the very bottom, the bit.ly is the recordings that you can find on our YouTube channel, which will be there for the entire week. And hopefully we get to see you again, same time, same place, tomorrow at 12 o'clock for our second to last session. See you then. Thank you and bye-bye.